In this video, we're going to be breaking down 3 WNBA games happening on July 31st, 2026, and providing you with a side pick and a total pick for every matchup. As usual, visit our channel for the rest of today's game picks and stick around until the end because you won't want to miss out on anything. Dallas Wings versus Washington Mystics. There's something about this game that the line just isn't fully respecting, and it starts with where this game is being played. Care First Arena in DC hasn't been kind to Dallas in the regular season, not for a while now. The Wings haven't won a regular season game in Washington since August 30th, 2023, dropping the last 3 trips to the nation's capital. That's not some obscure historical quirk you pull out to fill airtime. That's a legitimate pattern, and it matters when you're trying to figure out which side of a spread has the better edge. Now look at what's happening with both of these teams right now, because momentum and timing tell a story the record books sometimes can't. Dallas comes into this one sitting at 18-10, 4th in the Western Conference, and on paper that's a squad playing outstanding basketball this season. Jose Fernandez has completely transformed a franchise that went 10-34 last year, so credit where it's due, the turnaround is real. But their last game, a 1-point home loss to the Atlanta Dream, 82-81, is the kind of defeat that lingers. Their starters accounted for 80 of the team's 81 points, which honestly raises its own set of questions about depth and what happens when the bench is asked to contribute on the road. That's a big deal when you're traveling to a team that's currently riding high on a 3-game winning streak. Washington at 15-12 isn't just winning games right now, they're winning meaningful games against meaningful opponents. They snapped the Golden State Valkyries' 9-game winning streak on July 20th, rallying from 7 down in the final 3.5 minutes to close the game on a 17-2 run. Then they came back and edged the Las Vegas Aces 100-99 right before the All-Star break, with Shakira Austin hitting a 3-point playoff and offensive rebound with 12.8 seconds left for the win. And in their first game back from the break, they beat the Connecticut Sun 92-84 at home. Those aren't wins against rebuilding teams or schedule filler. Golden State, Las Vegas, Connecticut, that's an absolute gauntlet, and Washington came out the other side with 3 consecutive victories. There's also a defensive identity here that deserves more attention than it usually gets. The Mystics own the 3rd best defensive rating in the WNBA this season at 105.1, and they allow the 2nd fewest points per game in the entire league. For a team built around 3 sophomore stars, that kind of defensive discipline from a roster this young, the 2nd youngest in WNBA history, is frankly impressive. Sonia Citron just dropped 22 points on 6 of 9 shooting with 2 blocks against the Sun, and she went perfect from 3-point range for a 2nd consecutive game. Kiki Iriafen, an all-star selection this season, put up 20 in that same game. And Shakira Austin, who leads the league in defensive rebounds per game, added 17. All 3 of those players are healthy and in rhythm, and that matters when your team is coming home where the crowd is energized and you've already proved you can beat anyone. Now, you could point to the first meeting this season, that blowout back on May 18th in Texas where Dallas won 92-69, and say the talent gap is too wide. That's a fair counter. But that was nearly 2.5 months ago. Washington was still finding its footing early in the season, and the Mystics are a fundamentally different team today than they were in mid-May. The betting trends confirm what the tape shows. Washington is 5-1 against the spread in their last 6 games as a home underdog, 7-1 against the spread in their last 8 games against teams with winning records, and 4-1 against the spread in their last 5 games overall. Meanwhile, Dallas is an even 5-5 on the road this season. They can absolutely still win this game. Nobody's saying they can't, but the number the market has given Washington is generous enough to work with given everything that's trending in the Mystics' favor. As our first pick for this matchup, the Washington Mystics to cover the spread as underdogs is our full game side pick. When you look at how both of these offenses have been operating recently, the number the market is asking us to get over starts looking very reachable, and honestly, maybe even a little low. Dallas is the engine that drives this conversation. The Wings rank 4th in the WNBA in points per game at 89.9 and carry the 4th best offensive rating in the league at 113. This is a team built to score, and they do it in bunches. In their loss to Atlanta, the starters combined for 80 points, with Arik Ogunbowale going for 24, Azzi Fudd lighting it up for 20 on 9 of 13 shooting, Jessica Shepard recording her league-best 19th double-double of the season with 16 points and 14 rebounds, and Paige Bueckers adding 16 and 6 assists. That's 4 players in double figures in a loss, and it tells you something important. This team isn't going to come into DC and suddenly forget how to put the ball in the basket. Speaking of FUD, the rookie won the WNBA three-point contest during All-Star Weekend in Chicago on July 24th, and she's been one of the most efficient shooters in the league since the calendar turned to July. She passed 350 career points faster than any player in Wings history and has already knocked down over 50 three-pointers in just 27 career games. When a shooter gets that kind of confidence boost from an All-Star Weekend performance, you tend to see it carry over, and it showed in her 9 of 13 outing against the Dream. Now here's where it gets interesting, because Washington's offense has been running hot too, and that's the part people are sleeping on. The Mystics scored 90, 100, and 92 in their last 3 games. Read that again. A team that averages 81.2 points per game and plays at the slowest pace in the league just put up 94 points per game across 3 straight victories against Golden State, Las Vegas, and Connecticut. The scoring output from Citron, Iriafen, and Austin has been electric, and with no injuries on either side's status report heading into Friday, there's nothing to suggest the production dries up. The natural counter here is Washington's pace. The Mystics play at 77 possessions per game, dead last in the league, and their elite defense keeps opponents to the second fewest points allowed. That's a real argument for the other side, and if this were a matchup against another slow-paced, defense-first opponent, you'd weight it more heavily. But Dallas doesn't let you play slow. The Wings operate at a pace of 78.8 and their offensive style, pushed by Buekers in transition and Ogunbowale attacking in the half-court, demands extra possessions that inflate scoring for both teams, and the trend data backs this up emphatically. The over has hit in 4 straight meetings between these teams in Washington, 4 for 4 every single time. The over is also 4-1 in Dallas's last 5 games overall. When you put an offense as explosive as Dallas up against a Washington team that's been scoring at a significantly elevated clip during their winning streak, both sides have the personnel to push this total over the line. As our second pick for this matchup, over the projected total is our full game total pick. Quick commercial break. You know the deal. If you want to get our exclusive best sport picks to take things to the next level, then check out our Patreon in the link down below where we offer our best single picks, parlay picks, and much more. Go check it out. Commercial break over. Now back to the game. Seattle Storm versus Atlanta Dream. There's something really telling about the way this Seattle Storm team has gone about its business against the Atlanta Dream this season, and it has nothing to do with their overall record. On paper, the Storm sit at 6-24, dead last in the Western Conference, and you look at that and it screams stay away. But here's the thing, the record only tells you who's winning and losing, it doesn't tell you who's competing. And when it comes to this head-to-head, Seattle has absolutely been competing. The Storm won the first meeting back on June 27th at home by 15 points, a 105-90 blowout where Atlanta had no answer for Seattle's offensive firepower. Atlanta returned the favor on July 9th with an 89-78 victory at Gateway Center Arena, but that game was closer than the final score suggested for most of the night. So you've got a split-season series heading into Game 3, and the Storm have actually covered in 3 of the last 4 meetings between these two clubs. That's not a small thing. Natisha Hiedeman has been carrying this Seattle offense all season, leading the team in both scoring and assists, and she's proven she can go toe-to-toe with anybody on any given night. Meanwhile, Flau'jae Johnson, the rookie out of LSU who was traded to Seattle on draft night, has been absolutely erupting lately, dropping 23 or more points in 3 of her last 5 outings. That kind of scoring punch from a first-year player is not something you can just game plan away overnight. And tonight's game might catch Atlanta in a tricky spot, because the Dream have been winning, sure, 4 straight coming out of the All-Star break, but the margins have been paper-thin. Their most recent victory was a 82-81 nail-biter over Dallas, where they needed everything they had just to survive. Before that, a 93-91 escape against Chicago where Angel Reese left with a leg injury in the 4th quarter. A team barely surviving against opponents that, respectfully, aren't contenders either. Well, that should give you pause about laying a massive number with them. Then there's the health factor, and it cuts both ways. Seattle is actually getting healthier at exactly the right moment. Azzi Magbegor, who missed the last 7 games with a facial fracture after being elbowed by Atlanta's Medina Okot in the July 9th meeting, is expected back in the lineup tonight. Dominique Malonga, the team's leading rebounder at 8.5 boards per game, is listed as probable. This is the healthiest version of Seattle we've seen in weeks, and it's walking into a building where they have recent competitive experience. The bottom line is this: the spread here is asking Atlanta to win comfortably against a team that already beat them by 15 in June and has covered against them with regularity, all while the Dream have been scraping by in one-possession games. As our first pick for this matchup, the Seattle Storm to cover the spread as underdogs is our full game side pick. Atlanta's offense, when it's humming, is one of the more entertaining units in the league, and there are real reasons to expect both teams to put points on the board tonight. Alicia Gray has been the heartbeat of this dream attack all season, leading the team at 19.3 points per game, and she is someone who does not take possessions off. She gets her looks in transition, in the mid-range, off screens, and she's simply relentless about finding ways to score. Jordan Canada running the point at 7.7 assists per game means the ball moves, the looks are clean, and when Atlanta's offense is flowing through Canada, everyone eats. Angel Reese's presence at center creates a rebounding monster on the glass, pulling down 11.5 boards a night, and what that does for second-chance opportunities cannot be overstated. Every offensive rebound is essentially a new possession, an extra shot at the rim, and Reese's physicality guarantees Atlanta will get multiple bites at the apple on the offensive end. Those extra possessions inflate scoring totals in ways that don't always show up in the basic team stats. On Seattle's side, the Magbegger return is significant for the total as well. She adds another rotation player who can finish around the basket and create additional scoring opportunities, and the Storm had been running a shorter rotation without her. More bodies in the rotation means more pace, more substitution, and more energy throughout the game, all of which tend to push tempo and scoring. Johnson's recent hot streak adds another dimension because when she's cooking, Seattle's offense can generate points in bunches. Tiedemann running the show on one end, Johnson attacking on the other, that's a backcourt capable of putting up 30 to 35 points combined on any night. The first meeting between these two teams is the loudest argument for the over. That game ended 105-90, combining for 195 points, a number that absolutely shattered any projection. While the second meeting came in lower at a combined 167, the context there was a dream team that had just snapped a 5-game losing streak and was playing tighter, more conservative basketball. That version of Atlanta seems to be fading. The Dream's last 2 wins came in shootouts, the 93-91 win over Chicago and the 82-81 squeaker against Dallas, and those are games where both teams were scoring freely down the stretch. When the game is competitive, and we just laid out the case for why it should be, both teams tend to push pace and trade baskets in the fourth quarter rather than grinding things out. Atlanta's defense has allowed 83.6 points per game on the season, while Seattle allows 85.2 per game, meaning neither team is some shutdown defensive unit that suffocates opponents into the low 70s. Both defenses are porous enough to let the other team get comfortable offensively. And when you combine that with the scoring talent available on both sides tonight, the math starts pointing upward. As our second pick for this matchup, over the projected total is our full game total pick. Indiana Fever versus Portland Fire. Something's been brewing in Indianapolis, and it's spilling over onto the court in the most entertaining way imaginable. The Indiana Fever roll into the Moda Center tonight sitting at 18-10 on the season, riding a 4-game winning streak that has included some genuinely jaw-dropping performances. Portland sits at 11-17 and has dropped 7 of its last 10, limping out of the All-Star break with more questions than answers about its direction. That gap in momentum alone is enough to give pause, but it's the way Indiana has been winning that makes this matchup feel particularly tilted toward one side. Kelsey Mitchell has turned into a heat-seeking missile, putting up 20 or more points in 12 consecutive games, a franchise record that's tied for the third longest streak of its kind in WNBA history. That's not a small sample fluke. It's 12 straight outings of elite scoring production from a veteran who's been refining her craft for years. And she's had company. Caitlin Clark is playing at a level right now that borders on historic, having posted a franchise record 45 points with 10 assists against the Seattle Storm on July 17th, a stat line that had never been accomplished in the history of the WNBA. Nobody had ever put together a 40-plus point, 10-plus assist performance until Clark did it a couple of weeks ago. When your two primary ball handlers are both operating in the stratosphere at the same time, opposing defenses face an almost impossible decision. Tree on every possession, shade toward Clark, and Mitchell buries you from mid-range or the arc. Lock in on Mitchell, and Clark punishes you with pull-up threes and cross-court dimes that make your entire defensive scheme look silly. Now here's where the context gets especially telling for tonight. These two teams have split their season series 1-1, but the details of those games reveal a much messier picture than a clean split might suggest. Indiana won the first meeting 90-73 back in May at Gainbridge Fieldhouse, and they did that without Clark entirely. She was sidelined that night with the lingering back issue. Aaliyah Boston stepped up with 24 points and 8 boards, and the Fever cruised. Portland got their revenge in the second meeting at the Mata Center, winning 100-84, holding Clark to just 6 points. But, and this is the part that changes everything, that Portland team looked fundamentally different than the one taking the floor tonight. Sarah Ashley Barker, who was a catalyst in the Fire's Game 2 victory with clutch three-point shooting and aggressive perimeter defense, is now done for the year with a torn ACL suffered in a loss to Dallas just before the break. Sonia Fagan is also out for the remainder of the season with the same injury. Those are two meaningful rotational pieces that this expansion franchise cannot replace with equal production from the players behind them. You're looking at an inaugural year team that started the season 6-4 and earned real respect around the league, only to see the roster gutted by injuries during the most grueling stretch of its first WNBA schedule. Indiana, by contrast, enters tonight with all three of its All-Stars listed as probable. Boston did leave Tuesday's game against Seattle early with a lower leg issue, but she was seen practicing and moving freely at Thursday's session without any visible limp, and the team listed her as probable rather than questionable. Monique Billings filled the void beautifully in that Seattle game when Boston went down, posting a 14-point, 11-rebound, double-double that proved Indiana's depth is more than just a talking point. The Fire have been trending the wrong direction for over a month, and the roster that gave Indiana its toughest test in this series simply doesn't exist anymore. As our first pick for this matchup, the Indiana Fever to cover the spread as favorites is our full game side pick. The scoring environment in this game could get out of hand quickly, and honestly, it might be the most fun part of the evening. Indiana leads the entire WNBA in scoring at 95.8 points per game and has already topped the century mark a league record 12 times in 28 games, meaning nearly half of their contests this season have ended with the Fever north of 100 points. Their 4 consecutive wins produced combined totals of 217, 196, 211, and 200 points. Not one of those games stayed quiet, and that's not a coincidence. It's what happens when an offense this prolific gets rolling with pace and confidence behind it. Indiana runs the third fastest tempo in the league, which means more possessions, more shot attempts, and more opportunities for the scoreboard to keep ticking up on both sides. Portland's defense is not built to handle that kind of volume. The Fire ranked 13th out of 15 teams in points allowed per game, and the underlying numbers paint an even bleaker picture. They've battled transition defense problems all season, giving up easy buckets in the open court, and their struggles to close out possessions with a defensive rebound have created a steady stream of second-chance scoring opportunities for opponents. When you pair a team that pushes the pace and generates high-quality looks with a defense that leaks points in transition and off the offensive glass, you get the kind of game where the scoreboard doesn't stop moving. But here's the part that people tend to overlook in these lopsided matchups. Portland is not a team that just rolls over offensively when things go sideways. Carla Light has been outstanding in her first WNBA season, averaging 15.2 points and 5.9 assists while running the Fire's offense with a composure that surprises people who haven't watched her play. Megan DeLeo, who recently changed her last name after getting married in a ceremony officiated by former Iowa head coach Lisa Bluter this summer, has averaged 12.6 points per game while knocking down 40% of her three-point attempts, giving Portland a legitimate inside-outside scoring threat when she's on the floor. Bridget Carlton, the most consistent veteran voice on this roster, is back and available after dealing with a back issue of her own. Portland plays hard even in defeats, and the results back that up. Their loss in Las Vegas earlier this week still produced 83 points against a top-tier Aces defense, and their final game before the break against Dallas ended 101-97 with the combined total nearly cracking 200. The over has cashed in 8 of Indiana's last 10 games and 7 of Portland's last 10. When both teams are independently trending toward high-scoring outcomes, and they're set to face each other in a game featuring the league's top offense against one of its most porous defenses, everything lines up. Indiana's firepower creates a secondary effect too. It forces Portland to try and keep pace, which leads to quicker possessions, more shot attempts, and inevitably more combined scoring from both sides. Portland commits 22.4 fouls per game on average, which is going to send Indiana's shooters to the charity stripe early and often. In their last outing, the Fever went a perfect 26 for 26 from the free throw line, one make shy of the league record for consecutive makes without a miss in a single game. That kind of efficiency at the line is just free points layered on top of an already overflowing offensive output. And with Portland's tendency to foul, you can count on those trips happening regularly tonight. Everything about this matchup points toward a high-scoring affair with both teams contributing meaningfully to the final combined number. As our second pick for this matchup, over the projected total is our full game total pick. That's all for now, so if you have any other games you would like reviewed, then leave a comment down below with the game you would like analyzed, subscribe to our channel, leave a like on this video, and we'll get to it as soon as we possibly can. We would also love to hear your opinion on the picks presented to you in this video, whether you agree or disagree with them, so leave a comment down below and do let us know.